the whole genealogical record keeping is done to keep track of where the Jews are, and so then and Peter de Smet was a personal friend of Brigham Young, and Brigham Young hired the Paiute Indians to massacre Protestant settlers that were coming out west. And you can find that in the Godmakers.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. Stand by, folks. We'll take a break. Again, controversial, to say the least. And we shall continue with Eric John Phelps after this. Okay, right back with Eric John Phelps. Let's go back to the telephones and say hello to George in Salt Lake City. Hi, George. What's your question for Eric?
Yeah, good evening, Jeff Rand.
Good evening, sir.
Greetings to you.
And to you,
George.
Do you recognize my voice?
You've been on before, and you had a remarkable bit of information to contribute last time. I do remember it.
Thanks, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Your guest, regarding to your guest?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Of course, I have to disagree with some of his claims regarding the Khazar Empire and how they became Judaized. And the reason, of course, the reason was, as the gentleman has described on that page that you have read.
Yes.
But my comments really, regarding the Khazar Empire and the Khazars, yes, 95% I have been claiming to be, it's closer than that. 98% of those Jews today that claims to be the seeds of Abraham, they are truly not. They are of Khazar racial origin.
Okay.
Now, the reason I claim this is I am Hungarian by birth, and there was a Jewish man, very bright man, great writer, excellent historian by the name of Arthur Koestler. Have you heard?
Sure.
And he wrote a book which was rather controversial, of course, very explosive because of its content, the 13th tribe, where he describes the players between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea north of the Caucasian Mountains. And so, and the Hungarians were they were willing to play the game. They were subservient to the Khazars. The Hungarians, the Magyars, that is, our tribe, the Magyar tribe, that we were actually put in charge of collecting taxes for the Khazar Empire, for King Bulan and the succeeding kings. And the Khazars, were so powerful in those days, 8th, 9th century, that actually they have managed to collect taxes, levies, from about 25 Slavic tribes, around the region.
Okay.
What I'm really claiming here, sir, is that I happen to know history, that part of history, and nobody can refute that, what I know. All us Hungarians, educated Hungarians, know our history. We know who these Khazars are.
All right, let's get a comment.
Sir, yes?
Yeah, let's get a comment from Eric right now. Hold on right there, George, please. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, well, what you're saying then, George, is that there existed the Jews who were the descendants of Abraham. And then all of a sudden, during their great diaspora, some epic event takes place where now these Jews who had the Torah, they had circumcision, they had kosher meals, they had a whole culture, they had synagogues, all of a sudden now they are displaced by some epic event by Gentiles who then adopt their religion, claim to be Jews, and these Jews who are originally Jews, they just forget they're Jews and they are no longer identify themselves as a Jewish culture anymore. My question to that whole theory is what epic event automatically ended the Jewish people being truly the Jewish people, and now these Gentiles have taken their place?
The advent and the rise of the great and young dynamic Christian nation, Kiev in Ukraine, a prince led by the Prince Sviatoslav, he was the reason why the Khazars had to make a decision. The king, the Prince Sviatoslav, warned them to adopt a more civilized way of life. Their manners, regarding sex, their sexual habits and so forth were so atrocious that the Russians, could not put up with it, having such neighbors, on their southern borders. And so King Bulan knew that the Russian Prince Sviatoslav, had the power also, not just the mouth. And so he summoned leaders or representatives of the three major religions, sir, and they happened to like and fancy, the Babylonian Talmud. Because the Babylonian Talmud, by its content, has fitted very well, the temperament, the culture, and the characteristics of this race.
Okay, stand by, George. And Eric, we're getting a little esoteric here, but I'll let you answer that. Then we have to get one final comment from George.
I would have to say that even though King Bullen did adopt Judaism, which is validated in my research, there's no epic event that displaced the historic Jewish people from being who they were and being substituted for this Gentile race of Khazars. There is no historical event for that.
Okay, we'll have to agree to disagree on this, George. One final comment from you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Jeffrey, I cannot tell you how much I admire the depth of your intellect, sir.
Well, thank you.
It's amazing how you cover the entire spectrum, sir, from the frivolous, to the great depths of incredible. It's absolutely fantastic. But my final comment.
Sure.
Henry Ford. We never claimed that Henry Ford alone has written, the 3 volumes, International Jew. Henry Ford summoned, some of his brightest, finest, brightest people. And he sent them out throughout the world. He told them, do not come back till you have a full picture and the scope of the involvement of the Jewish Zionist conspiracy on a global scale. They went out, they went into Soviet Union. They returned, and they published a book, the International Jew.
Mm-hmm.
The book, was periodically, weekly, was actually being printed, in a Dearborn Independent. Do you remember that, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I have seen mention of that it was serialized.
But it was not Henry Ford, not at all. It was his brilliant young people that worked in his empire, in his corporation, or in his company.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, the reason he was caused, really, to go and investigate, the activities of the international Jewish finances is because actually he was convinced that they were trying to take over his business.
Well, his motive.
That was the very reason. I really thank you very much, Jeffrey.
Thanks, George. Thanks for being out there, and thanks for participating. And, again, thanks for the very nice compliment. I appreciate it. Henry Ford's book, or whoever wrote the book for Ford, did talk about profiling, an MO, a character, a way of doing business, a way of approaching people in business, which a lot of people say is not an inaccurate portrayal. And so what? How do you see that?
Well, I see, as far as the way the Jews do business?
Yeah. As far as Ford's perception of them, paranoid as it may have been, the profile that he presented in the book has been talked about by a lot of people for decades as being reasonably accurate of a certain portion, at least, of the Zionist movement.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of truth with regard to the Zionist movement that is in the International Jew. My objection to the work is there's not one mention of the Jesuit order and their influence, in fact, their origination of the whole Zionist movement and its relationship to the papacy. It's always an attack against the Zionist Jews, and there are plenty of them in the Council on Foreign Relations,
sure.
But there's never the connection made to the Knights of Malta, like William F. Buckley, like Alexander Haig, like George Tenet, and others. And also there's never connection made to the Jesuit order, like CFR presider Joseph O'Hare, president of Fordham University.
So you would suggest that Henry Ford and his men missed the forest because of the trees? I
would say that they were very much motivated and part of the Jesuit conspiracy, working for the Jesuit order, yes.
Okay. All right. Fascinating to look at all of this through the eyes and mind of our callers and my guest tonight, Eric John Phelps. His book, The Vatican Assassins, which details all of his work, is out there and available. All you have to do is call for it. Give us the number one more time.
It's 1-877-280-2866. It's 1-877-280-2866, Wisdom Books and Press. California hours from 9 to 5.